Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for the daily check-in at Combined Arms. And today we're going to check in with Travis Manion Foundation. Joining us is Ryan Manion, president of Travis Manion Foundation. Hey Ryan.
Hey Tana, how are you?
Good, good down here in Houston. How's everything in Pennsylvania for you guys?
Well, we're starting to see peaks of the spring coming through, so that's exciting.
Nice. It's weird for Houston to have potentially more snow in 1 year than you guys, but we definitely had a winter weirdness here. So we're happy to be going into spring too.
Yeah.
So I'd like for you to talk to us a little bit, for those folks out there who don't know anything about Travis Manion Foundation. Can you talk about your brother and your mom and in the beginning of TMF and sort of where you all are now?
Absolutely. So the Travis Manion Foundation was founded after my brother, First Lieutenant Travis Manion, was killed in Iraq on April 29, 2007. And, originally our organization began as a small memorial fund in the Philadelphia area. My mom founded the nonprofit, and I'm very quick to point out that I was not part of the inception of TMF. I was very supportive of what my mom was doing, and my dad and I really saw it as a way for a mother to channel the grief of losing her only son. And so originally we never thought it would be much more than what she was doing. And not that what she was doing wasn't amazing on its own. She was giving local scholarships out in the Philadelphia area. And then she actually started supporting other veteran serving organizations and giving grants out. So we started as a grant giving organization, and we were providing grants to nonprofits that were innovating in how they were working with our veteran community. And it was really around late 2009, that my mom had grown, the organization had grown significantly. She now had 3 or 4 people working for her full time. And she put out a request for an executive director and posted it far and wide. I was working for HUD at the time, working for the government. And I remember when she shared with my dad and I that she was going to be hiring an executive director. And I went on to careers@travismanion.org and I submitted my resume. And I didn't tell my parents I was going to do that. And I don't want to say that there wasn't maybe a little bit of nepotism involved, but I got the role. I took on as executive director, but for a few years, I was really just Janet Manion's assistant. And I was fine with that because my mom was a powerhouse. This was a woman that was a military spouse for 30 years, moving every 2 years with my dad and supporting our family, and really was the life force behind making sure that we had an awesome, stable environment with all the challenges of living in a military family. And then after losing her son, she found her passion and her purpose outside of being a mom. And that was making sure that she was providing the same support that we received after we lost my brother Travis. And she wanted to make sure that every family across the country had that same type of support. So I worked next to her for about 2.5 years until she was diagnosed with cancer. And 8 months to the day she was diagnosed, she lost her battle with cancer. And I remember it was May of 2012, just a couple weeks after my mom had passed. We had a board meeting. And our board said, Ryan, you're up. You need to take the lead and you need to carry this organization forward. And I was scared out of my mind. I felt fully unprepared. I felt like I had tremendous shoes to fill, not only with carrying on the organization that my mom had worked so hard. And at this point, we were becoming nationally recognized. We had our own innovative programs, but carrying forward with what she had started and in an organization that bared my brother's name. And so it was a scary time for me, but looking back and even where we are today in 2021, a lot of the things we do at TMF are things that my mom had put into practice back in 2008, 2009. So I always make sure that I'm kind of resting on how I think she would do things, how I think she would approach situations. And so far that's served me very well.
Well, I mean, we're honoring women all this month too, and it's wonderful for you to talk about your mom. But Ryan, you've also done an exceptional job of really growing this organization and picking up those reins. And I'm sure your mom and your brother would be just extremely proud of the job that you're doing.
Thank you.
So talk to us about some of the programs about TMF. I mean, in full disclosure, I once worked at the foundation, so I'm aware of some of the programs in, Character Does Matter, the 9/11 Heroes Run, and the Manion WOD, which is coming up, CrossFit Manion, and then Operation Legacy. So can you touch on some of those programs and how they're progressing throughout COVID?
Sure. At the end of the day, Tana, as you know, TMF is about a community. It's about making sure that we're bringing people together, both our veterans and civilians alike, and creating a community of like-minded individuals that want to go out and create change in their own communities. And, it's incredibly impactful that our programs are led by veterans and families of the fallen. They are the life force of everything that we do. Our biggest initiative is Character Does Matter. And Character Does Matter is a program where we actually train veterans and families of fallen service members to deliver character education to our nation's youth. To date, we've worked with 500,000 children across the country. We have over 2,000 veterans that participate in the program that have been trained to deliver character education. And we do everything from 45-minute school-wide presentations to 10 to 12-week character and leadership courses with cohorts of veterans that are working in a very small setting with groups of kids after school, and everything in between. And, again, a lot of the work that we do, a lot of the programming that we have founded at TMF is all based off of really Travis and who he represented and how he lived his life. And, I always say that Travis was big in the little things. And because he was big in the little things, he became even bigger in the big moments when it really mattered. And we've taken that and we're working with veterans to try and instill the fundamentals that they learned while serving in the military of leadership, service, integrity. And these are not things that are always impressed upon our next generation. And so as our men and women are coming home and taking off the uniform, we still need them, and we need them in this way to help really shape our next generation to be leaders. And that doesn't mean that they have to join the military in order to do that, but how can they be servant leaders in their own backyards? And so we're incredibly proud of that program. We were able to pivot in a really big way. One of our biggest campaigns over the last 12 months was Character Isn't Canceled. And when COVID hit, we reacted very quickly to say, okay, how are we going to make sure that we are still getting in front of our next generation and talking to them about these practical applications of how you live a life of character? And so we went live on Facebook every day for 45 days. Veterans were getting on live and talking with kids. And we went even as far as moving into now, we're back to our regularly scheduled program with schools, but it's all being done virtually. And we've really worked hard to find innovative ways to keep kids engaged through a virtual environment. This past year alone, we've worked with 78,000 kids across the country. And I think that speaks to our military community, our veterans, that we're saying, hey, we're still here and we want to help. And so that was awesome to see how we were able to pivot in that direction. And then again, everything we do is providing for our veterans engagement opportunities. If they're not interested in Character Does Matter, maybe they're interested in our Op Legacy program, which is a series of service projects across the country. We come out with a few different national campaigns, but it takes place all year long. But the difference in our service projects is that every single one of our service projects is in honor of a fallen service member. So when you're showing up to give back to your local community, you're going to start off by hearing the story of a fallen service member and understanding their service and sacrifice and the bigger message of why we're out here each and every day. And then, a ton of other things as well, which I can dive more into, but a ton of athletic events, social events, again, always getting back to just creating that community that we can come together and be change agents.
You mentioned Character Does Matter and Operation Legacy, and as you can see behind me, our entire gym here is full of murals. And when this completely white, ugly walled gym was sort of sitting here, and we combined Character Does Matter with Operation Legacy. So we brought high school kids in here for consecutive weekends, and they were given the Character Does Matter presentation by some of our veterans here. And then their service project, the Legacy project, was painting these murals, and each one of these are dedicated to a fallen service member in the greater Houston area. So all of that is very, very present right here. And going even further with you all, obviously Manion WOD is coming up, but you want to touch a little bit about CrossFit Manion, which will be launching here in Houston on May the 1st.
Absolutely. Well, as you know, we're proud partners with Combined Arms, and we've been working with Combined Arms really since the very beginning, and we're really proud of our partnership and everything we're doing down there in the greater Houston area. The Manion WOD is a CrossFit WOD. For those that are not familiar with the CrossFit community, there are fallen hero WODs. So WOD is workout of the day, and they have WODs that are dedicated to fallen service members. One of them was created for Travis, the Manion WOD. We come out and do it with participating CrossFit gyms across the country every year in April, at the end of April, beginning of May, to coincide with the date of Travis's death. And this year we have really exciting news. We are actually opening, we're one of the only nonprofit CrossFit affiliate boxes in the country. And it's going to be opening on May 1st, right at Combined Arms in this space that you are in right now. We're going to be opening a CrossFit gym, which is so incredibly exciting. And, I think, again, we all know the importance of taking care of our health and well-being. Physical fitness is a huge factor in that. And we have some incredible TMF Spartans, Earl Lundy being one of them, that has done a tremendous job of bringing that component to Combined Arms to Houston. And so we're excited to kick off. I'm excited to be there and participate not only in the Manion WOD. We'll, be doing hundreds of squats, and I won't be able to walk for days,
Sure.
but it's all in good faith to, again, honor our fallen service members, and really excited for the opening of CrossFit Manion at Combined Arms.
Yeah, us too. And just a reminder, CrossFit can be expensive for folks, but for veterans and their families, all the workouts here at our gym are free to veterans and families. So we hope to have this place filled up as Texas is opening up even more. So, and speaking of fitness, can you talk to us a little bit about what's happening with Heroes Run this year? I know that there were lots of virtual runs across the country last year. Houston has one of the largest in-person before COVID, and we've got races all across this state. So what about what's happening nationally with Heroes Run?
Sure. So our 9/11 Heroes Run is a 5K race series that we execute every year around September 11th. Pre-COVID, we had in 2019, we had 90 races across the world, brought out over 60,000 participants. And I remember when COVID hit in March, we were talking about, I don't think any of us understood the long haul we were in for. And as we were looking at our events, and listen, a lot of what we do is in person because we believe in the power of being together, of uniting together face to face. And I remember having conversations of, okay, we're going to have to cancel this. We're going to have to shift this. And well, 9/11 Heroes Run, that'll be fine. That's not until September. And as the weeks and months went by, we realized no, we're still in this and we've got to adjust. And so we moved to an all virtual environment for the Heroes Runs. And we were blown away by the response, by how many people came out to participate virtually. And the coolest thing about it for us is that it was over 50% of our participants in 2020 were new, had never participated at an in-person event because there wasn't necessarily one that was close enough to them or accessible to them, or the date didn't work. And so we're excited to go into 2021 with offering both this virtual component and we're looking forward to hopefully having as many in-person events that we can. In Houston, that is one of our biggest races. I mean, we bring out like 5,000 people in Houston. The Houston Police Department plays a very large role in putting the race together. And And again, for us, when I talk about the 9/11 Heroes Run, it's a 5K race series. It's about getting out there, being physically active. But to the heart of what it is, it's a way for us to come together each and every year and remember the sacrifices that were made on September 11th and in the wars that followed. And I will never tire of going to these events and seeing young kids holding American flags, because all of our events start off with an opening ceremony. It's not just showing up, get your number, okay, get in line. You don't walk away from a 9/11 Heroes Run without having truly honored and remembering that date and understanding what it's about. And so again, we're always saying teaching that next generation, making sure 9/11 was, I mean, I always say for us, it was our Pearl Harbor. It was that moment where each and every one of us knew where we were that day. We all have that story. And as the years go by and we go further, we're approaching our 20-year anniversary of September 11th. We need to make sure that our next generation understands the significance of that day and how it changed the course of our country and our world. And this is just one way that we do that.
Yeah, and I think that 9/11 Heroes Run is a really great way to remind us to honor all of our first responders. I mean, that really is what it became all about, and that's something I think a lot of people we end up kind of taking for granted. If you need something, you call the fire department. You call someone, but let's remember the sacrifices that those folks make all the time. So yeah, 9/11 Heroes Run. We hope we'll be out there in person and can see everybody out here in Houston and all across the country, because camaraderie is really important, and in person really does make a difference. But we'll be out there anyway, one way or the other.
Yeah.
But so moving on to, you are a published author now, along with two of your dear friends, Amy Looney Heffernan and Heather Kelly. You want to touch a little bit about on Knock at the Door and tell us really how that project happened and how you all got together to write this amazing book?
Sure. So Amy Looney Heffernan is the Vice President of Programs at the Travis Manion Foundation, and Heather Kelly leads our regional teams on the West Coast. And Amy lost her husband, Brendan, in September of 2010. And shortly after, Heather lost her husband, Robert Kelly, in Afghanistan. And, we were actually asked in 2018, we did a piece on CBS Morning News profiling the three of us working together at a veteran serving organization, which there are not many that are led by women, and even more so Gold Star women. And so they did a story on us, and afterwards we were approached to share our story through a book. And so we wrote the book, and really we wrote the book, The Knock at the Door, to not just share our stories, but more than that, to share the fact that each and every one of us are all going to get our own proverbial knock at the door. For us, we all got literal knocks that when we opened that door, we learned that our loved ones were no longer with us. But a knock at the door can come in many different forms. The loss of a career, a divorce, loss of a loved one. I mean, there's so many different things that happen to us throughout the course of our lives. And so we really wanted to share not just our stories and obviously we wanted to share Brendan, Travis, and Robert's stories, but we also wanted to share how we responded to that knock. And I would say we shared the good, the bad, and the ugly, because it wasn't just that we woke up, got that knock, and said, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to react. I mean, there were really hard times for all three of us, and we wanted to share that piece and kind of knock down that exterior that we were all put together and we hadn't struggled through that loss, but then also share with the readers, how we did move forward and how we found purpose after their loss. And, that book was released in November 2019, and we did a press tour in all of November, a lot of December, and into January. And little did we know that just a few short weeks later, the entire country was going to get a knock at the door. And so I've really leaned into a lot of what we've put into that book in the past year and tried to rest on those words that I put down on paper and said, when I'm feeling in my head, when I was feeling stuck, go back and say, no, Ryan, this is how you did it before. This is how you're going to have to do it again. So.
Yeah, you're right. The book was for anyone and for everyone. It was a little bit of a handbook of how to go through some things, how to get to the other side, and certainly was very timely for all of last year. So yeah, it's a wonderful book. It really is. I bought, I think, 5 or 6 copies and gave those out as Christmas presents that year. So yeah, it's a lovely book.
Thank you. I
So
appreciate
talk,
that.
so talk to me about the Resilient Life. You're now a podcaster out there. So talk about how that came about and some of the folks that you've had on and some of the folks you have coming up.
Absolutely. So again, one of the silver linings of COVID is that I had a chance to slow down to, obviously the work continued at TMF, but my travel slowed down. I was in my home office and, we wanted to kind of break through the world of, okay, there's really bad stuff happening right now. And I remember every day I was turning on the TV and, you're watching the ticker of the lives lost of the people that had, had coronavirus and these daily briefings. And it was just so heavy that at one point I just had to turn it off because it really wasn't good for my mental health. And we started to talk about how we could, again, take the idea of the knock at the door, what came next, and turn it into something more. And so from that, the Resilient Life podcast was born. And the hope is that we could just bring people from all different walks of life. Of course, there's a heavy military slant to it. We have a lot of service members that we've had on, but we try to bring guests that can bring different perspectives and relate it back to, where we are today and the challenges that they face and how they've moved forward. Resiliency is a muscle. You have to strengthen it. And one way to strengthen it is to understand other people that have dealt with adversity and tragedy and understand what they did to work through it. It's just like, as you're working the muscles in your arm, it's how do you find that program, right? And where are you going to get that information on how to build bigger biceps? Well, we wanted to provide information for how you could build your resiliency muscle. And so we've had a ton of amazing guests, from Alex Gorski, the CEO of Johnson & Johnson, as they were going, as the pandemic had hit, and he was talking about how they were developing the vaccine, and to see where they've come today, leading the charge and really pushing out the most extensive batch of vaccines we've seen to date, to Rob Jones, a Marine double amputee, and what he's gone through and how he's moved forward. We have some incredible guests coming up in the next several months, but really trying to find a diverse group of individuals to share their stories and just be a resource. And hear those interesting stories of how people have moved forward.
Because you never know what's going to resonate with, one person over here. They may get something out of one of your guests or way more just relate to somebody different. So yeah, the diverse group of folks that you have it's really cool to see who you're having coming up every time. So I love it. So again, talking about, Women's Month, and we're trying to make sure that we honor women, and you're a very strong example of a very strong woman who's really taken on this huge mantle, and you're just doing such a great job. But I also know that you're a mom of 3, and how is it being a mom of 3 kids and still trying to do it all and maintain everything?
Yeah, it's not always easy. I always want to be sure to not paint some sort of picture that I have it all together and that all the T's are crossed and the I's are checked. They're not. I fail every day, either personally or professionally, as a parent, as the president of an organization. But I'm always very clear to wake up the next day and try harder and do better and learn from those mistakes. They always say, I've heard this saying, like, you can have it all. And I believe that you can, but in having it all, you're going to have to sacrifice some things. And so the last year, I actually put a post up today, just reflecting back on the last year And, because this was the date where kind of the world shut down and we were forced to, we went into lockdown and we were forced to kind of reflect on what was happening. And as challenging as the last year was, I reflect back on it with a lot of gratitude because I was able to reconnect with what's most important to me, and that's my family. And, simple things like playing Monopoly with my kids at night, and, baking a cake with my daughter, things that, sometimes you can take for granted. And for me, don't always happen because I was traveling so much, to have the opportunity to do that and has been incredible. And now as we look forward and we see this light at the end of the tunnel, it looks like we're getting back to a place where we're going to hopefully find some sense of normalcy. I want to take some of that with me because I got too far away from that before COVID hit. And so my hope is that I can enter into post-pandemic with bringing some of those pieces and knowing that I have to take a step back sometimes. I have to take a step back and focus on my family and what it means. I'm incredibly lucky to have a amazingly supportive husband who is my partner in everything. And so that in itself is very helpful. But, I've got a 6-year-old in kindergarten and I have a 14-year-old who's a freshman in high school and then a 12-year-old daughter in 6th grade. So I'm dealing with every set of challenges that parenthood comes.
Yeah, that's, yes, and girls, a teenage girl and a teenage daughter and then a pre-teenage daughter. Good luck with all of that. And we were both once that age too, so, that's definitely going to be challenging. And it's, sometimes it does take some sort of an event to sort of switch us up to knowing that we've got to change our perspective a little bit and kind of focus on some other things. But it sounds like, we all learned some lessons through COVID, and hopefully those lessons were good ones and positive ones, and we can all come out of this better, a little tentative about things, but I definitely think that it was it was an interesting year for everybody, and I think that there are some good things that are going to come out of it. So, well, what do you think about when you think about the future and the growth of TMF? Because you all really are such a big organization, but still such a very personal organization because it is all about veterans and civilians working together. I mean, you have so many volunteers that come out. People just want to be together and honor veterans and first responders. I mean, you guys are all over. So what does the future look like for TMF?
Well, one of the things that I always go back to is that the Travis Manion Foundation was born out of love. None of us woke up one day and said, we've got this great idea for this nonprofit, right? My brother was killed in Iraq, and from there we started an organization to originally help carry on his legacy. It's grown to so much more than that, but it was a family affair. It was me, it was my parents, it was my aunts and uncles, it was our close friends, and I always want to make sure that no matter how big we grow as an organization, that it still remains that family feel that it started as. And I love it. We've hired a few people in the past several weeks and months, and I love nothing more than when I see the email and you've seen them when you worked for us, and the manager will introducing so-and-so, this is their top character strengths. This is the 3 things that they want you to know about them. And I love nothing more than when I see all of our staff respond saying, welcome to the TMF family. And it's always like, welcome to the family, welcome to the family. And that for me is so important because, we came from a different place as an organization, and I want to carry that forward no matter what. But from a practical standpoint, we are a nationally recognized nonprofit that is running as a business. We're working with Deloitte on a 10-year strategy. Our hope is to continue scaling our programs and offering more opportunities, engaging more veterans across the country. And so we're being very strategic and operational about how we're doing that. But at the end of the day, always relying back to the fact that, this is a family affair. And from, the Tanas that worked at TMF to the volunteer in Seattle, Washington that I've never met, I want them to have that same sense, that same feeling that they're part of this community, that we are all there for each other. You know, when you see someone wearing that Spartan t-shirt, and I love it, you know, you're walking through the airport and you can see someone and they're wearing the t-shirt and you're wearing the hat and they just look at you and they're like TMF. And I'm like, yep, you know, and it's just, it brings me a lot of comfort and joy knowing that we came from that place. But as we continue to grow and as we've grown up as an organization, as a professional nonprofit, we still keep that same sense of family and where we began from.
Well, I mean, I can tell you from having been inside and now being more of a volunteer, that the feeling of it being family was always there as a staff member, and certainly even as a volunteer, you just feel like, because the story it started organically, like you said, it wasn't let's start a nonprofit. It really just grew from wanting to bring community together, and so that really is the feeling that is out there about Travis Manion Foundation. So great job. I mean, I'm really happy to see where you guys are going to go from here. I know that I'll always be a part of it. I have probably 30 Spartan t-shirts in my drawer from all of the things that we've done. And I look forward to having even more of those volunteering and doing more things with you guys. Thanks,
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for taking the time today. I know you're a busy woman and you probably got cakes to bake or, you know, or president of nonprofit things to do, you know, one or the other all in one day. But we really do appreciate the time that you've taken. We're, like you mentioned before, Combined Arms is very, very proud of the relationship that we have with you. And we're really happy to be representing Travis Manion Foundation here in the CrossFit Manion coming up soon. And we hope that you'll enjoy yourself when you come to town in April.
I can't wait. I'm looking forward to being down there and seeing all of you. And thanks for all that all of you do at Combined Arms. You know, what we are able to do in the greater Houston area would not be possible without Combined Arms. You guys really are the catalyst for us being able to expand our programming there. And we're so incredibly grateful and thankful for the partnership and the relationship. And I look forward to seeing all of you in person at the end of April and, you know, doing a little workout and, you know, and then maybe crawling somewhere to grab a beer afterwards.
For sure. There'll be Tex-Mex involved. And yeah, I mean, and by the way, you are the inaugural guest for our new check-in series. So thanks a lot for stepping up to be the first one here. And we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Ryan.